It's definitely Friday this week, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a late running preview show as we battle our schedules to bring you a show looking back on a 2-1 win at Colchester and ahead to another trip down to the West Country to face Bristol Rovers. As has become routine now, I'm joined by my pal Jobe. And mate, I got the day right.
Jobe? Yes, you did.
That? Don't tell me I've got something else wrong.
You have got the day right. It is Friday. So firstly, happy Friday to you, Julian Roberts, and happy Friday to everyone listening. Can we just loop back on the late running mention in your little intro there?
Yeah.
Can we agree a definition for the preview pod? Because as you've seen, screenshots have been shared. A lot of round dodgers are commenting on this pod being a Thursday pod, not being there first thing on a Friday. I mean,
here's my view on it. Right, we wait for the presser on a Thursday, and the presser always
got to wait for the presser. Got to wait for the presser. So you need Neil Harris giving you nothing away about the injury situation, so you can come on and talk about there might be injuries.
Exactly. So we've got to wait for the presser. That usually drops at about 4 or 5-ish, something like that. So that's our window for recording. Sometime after that. Now, normally there'll be 2 of the 5 of us that will record, but I'll be the one that edits it, and often I'll be doing something on a Thursday night. So to give myself the leeway, I always think the preview pod drops very early on a Friday. So I think it should have been out by about 7 o'clock on a Friday morning. So most people on their commute can listen to the dulcet tones of Jordan Warland talking about Colchester United on Tuesday night. So I think that should be our agreed thing. And it's a little treat if it comes out on a Thursday, because I can be asked to sort it out on a Thursday evening.
Some of us are parents. We have to do bedtime routines on Thursday. Tom Walker's bedtime routine on Thursday is very hard work. Getting him down. So I agree. Yeah, I think it's a Thursday evening record for an early Friday morning release. Now we are doing a Friday morning record. We are a little bit behind. It is so early on a Friday. I'm actually sat here in my pajamas.
We've both got a lovely coffee on the go. It's quite nice. There's something nice about it. But I do apologise because people's commutes have been ruined, I think, George, and we need to take a bit of responsibility for that.
I'd like to apologise to all those that wanted to lift some weights in the gym this morning and listen to Julian and I, or those that want to do their morning runs, the healthy lot, and you don't have us to listen to. Apologies. It is a fantastic Friday though, getting this pod out. It's not as good as Skepasti Saturdays, but
no. Well, I was going to say, instead of Friday morning in the gym listening to the pod, you'll have to do Friday evening walking to the pub, listening to the pod, and obviously it's bank holiday weekend, so it's an extra special Friday. And if you're walking down to the pub and you're in the Cambridge area, you've got to head down to the Old Spring, our new sponsors. You can get, tomorrow you can get yourself a lovely Matchday meal. You can get yourself a skepasti, as George mentioned, or a burger or fish and chips with a beer for 15 quid. Then after the game, stay in there, watch the game with the Frankfurt U's on your phone. And then every Saturday it's actually changed to 6 and 7 now. You can get half price beers in the happy hour. But also, aside
that's
from
even
that,
better. That's a better time.
It's a better time. It's a better time. Between 6 and 7, half price beers, George. God, you can really make the most of that as well. Any other time of the week with a Cambridge United season ticket or matchday ticket, you get 10% off your full bill. So go in there tonight, have a nice meal, get 10% off, enjoy the start of the bank holiday weekend, and look forward to a trip to Bristol Rovers. George, before talking about Bristol, though, we've got to talk about Tuesday night, because what a great night. Well, we didn't even bump into each other, George.
I know, that's what made it so great for you, right?
I know.
Can I just quickly say on the Old Spring, it is on Ferry Path, which is just off Chesterton Road. It's the other side of Midsummer Common. Spoken to a couple of people that asked me about it. Thought they were going to go to the Fort St George, which is a fine pub. Fine pub.
You're not going to get a capacity in the Fort St George.
It's not the one to go to. If you've made it to the Fort St George, go over the little cycle bridge.
Yeah.
You're was it south of the river? North of the river? I think it's north of the river.
Do you know what? I will sanction a very small pub crawl that could include the Fort St George. You could go round, quick one in the Waterman, and then end up
the Portland as well. Our friends at the Portland with their lovely recording studio.
Absolutely. You could stop in the Tivoli and do a bit of mini golf. Now we're just sort of promoting Mitcham's Corner as an area of town. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Just off Chesterton Road, north of the river. That's where the Old Spring is.
Ferry Path.
It's a shame to miss you last week, George. We had a lovely little meet up before the Harrogate game.
I know. Yeah, it looks great. It was nice to see some nutters there as well, and UTAS fans. So yeah, thanks to everyone that went along. And yeah, well, hopefully I'll be at the next one.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Come on, let's start talking about Tuesday, George. I'm excited. This is there's so much to get through. 2-1 win, all the goals in the first half. First question, direct to you. What did this do to your bullishness walking out of the ground?
I feel like this question keeps coming to me this season. I
You're
listen.
the king of bullishness, though, George. You love it.
I listen to other pods that have been released, some of which are special ones for the nutters and so forth. And I seem to be the only one that is not tempering my excitement or not tempering my, my original preview for the season of thinking that we'll do slightly better than the 11th or 12th that I was suggesting. The Tuesday night did a lot for my bullishness, if I'm honest. The toughest test, I would say, so far of the season. I know it's only 5 games in. A difficult place to go, a difficult team set up with, very experienced managers there. Lots of talk before the game, after the game about, what kind of yardstick are Colchester? Are they a playoff team or are they sort of a top half team? I'm not entirely sure they are a playoff contending team. I think they've got a good squad there. I think they worked hard. I think if they're fortunate this season and they keep people fit, I think they could maybe challenge the playoffs. But I'm not openly sure that they are what I would call like a sort of a top 5 team. Nonetheless, you can only beat who's in front of you, and they are a very good team. I think they've got a pretty good home record as well. So difficult place to go. The bullishness is rising. How could it not? The first win from a losing position since Feb 24, I believe, Shrewsbury away. But yeah, how could bullishness not be rising? There's lots from that performance to be positive with. And then you just sort of look at it at the wider context of the season. I like to save my judgment until 10 games in. We're now 5 games in if you include the cup game. 3 wins, 2 of those away, 1 of those from coming from a losing position. And for the second time, and especially related to me coming on to do these preview pods, I feel like the last time I was on preview pod, we spoke about this. But for the second time this season, we followed up a disappointing performance with a good performance and a response and a reaction. So, previously it was the Bristol game after Swindon. This Tuesday it was after the Harrogate game. Not to sniff at a point from Harrogate at home, but the performance was there in the first half to suggest that we should get more. So, yeah, pleasing to see not only 3 points, but the response. It was pleasing to see us stay in the game after going behind. Lots and lots of positives there. I should probably throw in a negative to balance it up. Keep you on your toes, Julian. Another soft goal. I think we'll talk about that later for sure, but another disappointing goal to concede.
Well, that was going to be my next question, really, if we were going to start going through the actual game itself. Bit of a soft one to concede. We had a bit of a chat about it in the car on the way back afterwards. Are you blaming Eastwood for this? I mean, I know it opens up. You could probably think the fella shouldn't get the amount of time and the sort of positional advantage he ends up getting because it opens up for him so much for him to get the shot away. But on a rewatch, I'm not sure Eastwood's potentially like giving himself the best chance of saving it positionally. He seems like he's moved quite far over to the left, and I mean the strike's pretty good. I don't think it's anything like a howler, but are you putting?
It's pretty central though, isn't it? That
it's
shot?
not. It's not tucked away as much as I thought on when I watched it live.
Well, where I was in the stadium, avoiding yourself, Julian, I was a few yards to the left of that left-hand post, so Eastwood's left. So if you didn't go on Tuesday and you're watching the highlights, it would be the goal went in onto Eastwood's right. So I was the other side to where the camera angle was. I had a pretty good view. Nearly sort of directly behind him, quite high up. I had a pretty good view, and I just thought in real time, it felt awfully like that was very, very central. Watched a few highlights back, both the official ones with the camera on the side there and a few sort of fan filmed footage from behind the goal, and it's probably a little bit further to the right than I originally remember it at the time, but it's not, like you say, it's not in a corner, it's not down low, it's not top bins, it's a very savable area. I don't know what Eastwood was thinking. I think he sort of crept a little bit to the left. I don't know if that's because of Kel Watt's positioning. I wouldn't blame Eastwood entirely for this goal, to answer your question outright. it doesn't cover him with a lot of glory. It makes me think back to what Ben Griffiths was saying pre-season about Eastwood's goal conceding data and the types of goals that he concedes. So it doesn't cover Eastwood in glory. He did respond well. I think he had a good game Tuesday. Kicking for the most part was pretty decent. A couple of important catches and stops, especially in the second half. It was difficult in the second half, the angle that we're at. It was hard to tell how close some of those chances were, but there was a little backheel goal that he was quite a smart stop down to his near post to keep out. So he responded well and had a good evening. But overall, I don't think the goal covers him in much glory. But am I putting the blame entirely at his feet? I'm not, and I think you've alluded to this. I think there's 2-3 names there that you could throw into the mixer of what's gone on there. You know, who's tracking the runner. Well, you know, was it Brophy's man originally? I think. You know, you're looking at people like Don Ball. You're looking at people like Jobe, who changes his position, doesn't go to the runner, so Watts has to step out. Actually,
but he steps out too late as well. Like no one really engages him. It's like part in the Red Sea a little bit, isn't it?
He does step out too late, but I wonder if that's because of the run that Jobe made. Like Jobe, instead of going to that player, tracked another, so Watts had to respond. So yeah, the biggest crime from the goal conceded on Tuesday night is just the acres of space that guy had, you know, and just outside your box, and worryingly, it feels very similar. You know, I said at the top of the pod, you know, another soft goal conceded. It feels like goals coming from sort of that left hand side seem to be an area.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Ben Griffiths a moment ago. Can I just pause for a second?
Top lad.
Can I pause for a second just to give our website a little plug? Because there's some stuff going out on there that I think is like, this isn't bigging myself up because if anything, I'm bigging up all our brilliant guest writers. Matt Ramsey put out a great piece recently about the standards that Harris has set in. Ben Griffiths this week's put out a piece, really like a long read on the data, looking at the early data around the league and seeing how we stack up against other teams. I mean, there's a lot of sort of very intense sort of nerdy data in there, like expected threat and stuff, but it does give you these really interesting indications to see how teams are approaching games and where we're stacking up against them. That's available for Coconut tier members, £5 a month. You'll get an article like that every single week, at least one. One thing that he points out that's in the piece is that we actually have the second lowest XG against of teams who have played 4 games in the league. So that means is we're conceding the least high quality chances after MK Dons, if that makes sense. So that kind of, I think, if I'm going to add this up all correctly, I think that means there is something in these goals being soft because we're not giving away excellent chances positionally, but the ball's still ending up in the back of the net. Do you see what I'm saying? There's something, maybe that's not a great reflection on Eastwood, to be honest, because where these people are taking these shots from and the chances they're creating aren't particularly high, given according to that data.
It stacks up. It stacks up on the eye test, right? Because think back to the goals we've conceded this season so far. How many of them have you gone, do you know what? Good finish that. Maybe the Harrogate one hit first time. That was a good hit.
Yeah, but Bennett should be ahead of him. The cross shouldn't come in as well. I still think there's softness in that whole goal. Anyway,
yeah. No disagreeing there, man. But the stats match the eye test, and then it's really on Neil Harris now to figure out how to respond to that. How do we quote unquote become a Neil Harris team that doesn't concede those types of goals?
Yeah, well, you want to hear about Neil Harris teams, you've got to go listen to the mailbag now that I'm plugging the Coconut here, which me and Tom recorded in the week, where we talked about what a Neil Harris team is. If you go to www.undertheabbeystand.com, you can become a fully paid up member for the price of a pint a month. At 45 minutes, how are you feeling about the first half? Because I think there was 3 minutes of this game, a bit like the Swindon game, but the other way around, that changed the mood entirely.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have that sort of going our way for once. I'm sure it's happened a few times. I can't remember it. But yeah, to score and then score again in quick succession and not be that team that loses their head is terrific. But yeah, before the first goal, I was feeling okay, actually. I didn't think the game was gone. I felt like we responded well to going behind. I think we opened the game pretty well. Obviously, then Colchester came in, we conceded a soft goal. I think we responded well to that. And the first half, whilst not always brilliant, I felt like we deserved to to go in level just before, Brophy got the first goal there. I did find myself thinking two things. Number one, there's like a real sustained bit of pressure here. We seemed to be camped out in their 18-yard box, had a few corners, maybe had some other set pieces. It felt like we were really on top, which was pleasing to see away from home, but just felt a little bit frustrated that we, I don't know, hadn't tested the keeper properly, hadn't had a real gilt-edged chance or even scored. And combine that with my second point, which is elsewhere in the first half, before that sort of build up to the final sort of moments of the half, we had a fair few chances.
Yeah, Brophy's one right at the start.
I was going to say, yeah, started the game quickly, as we seem to do. Good little move. Kachunga comes into a bit of stick, but he was well involved in that move. Ball comes out to Brophy, has time, favoured left foot. Probably should be doing better. Probably feels a bit disappointed. But I think the three headers after that, one was Jobe that he heads into the ground. One, I think, was Watts. There was another one I can't remember, but we done
Ball maybe. I'm not sure.
I think Ball was the name I was thinking, but we've done really well at set pieces to, make space, get and get that opening and get those three headers, and two of them way off target. Jobe's one at least was on target, but sort of slightly wrong technique. He'd go and correct that later, obviously. Say, yeah. But we'll come to that. Yeah, but I just found myself early in the half or in the middle of the half going, look, this is just classic Cambridge United this season, which is we're creating a lot of chances and not tucking them away. See Harrogate at home, see Cheltenham at home, see all these other games. Like, is this just going to be another night where can't finish our chances, and it's going to cost us, and we deserve something, but we might not get it because of being toothless in front of goal. So that's how I was feeling in the lead up to 45 minutes. The person I was there with, we contemplated having a pint at half time, and I think I was a little bit more like, should I suggest we go now? But I didn't.
Well, I was stood with Tom Walker, and it would have been on a Saturday, to be clear. Tom definitely would have missed both of these goals, 100%. We actually had this question in from DD on Twitter. He said, how many people missed both goals queuing for a burger? And I'm sure there was a fair few.
Do you know what? After the first goal, I was like, great, let's just go get a beer
let's
now.
go, yeah.
and I, obviously, halftime comes. There's only one person I'm texting. You've named his name. I was like, Tom, did you see both of those? And he reassures me that he did.
He was stood next to me the whole time. Don't worry, we celebrated them both pretty wildly. Brophy obviously scores the first one. Deflective effort from the free kick. I think you summed it up well there. That probably a bit of what we deserved. Not much really to say about the goal beyond that.
Oh, well, one question for you.
Go on.
After the game, Danny Cowley wasn't happy with Kachunga and his involvement with the wall. Just wondered if you had a thought on that, because I
find this chat so boring.
Obviously the Palace Chelsea game on Saturday had this instance in it. Is it fine because he was behind the wall? Is that the sort of situation?
I'm genuinely not sure of the rule, Jord. I'm actually not sure. It's something to do with the meter, right? You've got to be a meter away or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think I just don't care. I wouldn't care if it happened against us. I wouldn't care if
I was going to say, until it happens to us, then I'm going to care.
No, I don't know.
One rule that you do know is that a 5 back pass is allowed, which that's a message that Colchester players and fans didn't get. That was another highlight.
We're going to talk about this every week in the same way we seem to talk about strikers every week. But he's outdoing himself. There's one I think it's in the second half.
That was real risky. Yeah.
But he's like on the floor, like sideways. Like it's not, there's no back pass on there, and he still somehow manages to get away with it. I love how many. It's the maddest thing to have a player, a centre half, who has a thing like that. I know we've said it so many times on pods, but I've never known a player to have a characteristic like that. And how many like home fans or opposition fans he's riling up through it, because I love seeing them all like get up for a back pass and stuff, and it's great.
It's fucking great. It's fucking great, man.
Let's talk about his centre half partner, Mamadou Jobe, who obviously gets the second. Just before the goal, quickly, have you got any thoughts on Colchester's kickoff routine, which I thought was just marvellously League Two?
Do you mean at the very start?
All of them, every single time, because the Colchester fan who we spoke to on last week's pod, For the newsletter, which again, if you go onto the website and subscribe, you'll get a newsletter in your inbox every Thursday, summarising events going on around the league and at United. And we get an opposition view after the game. They write a few paragraphs on what they thought of the game and what they thought of us. And he made the point. He was like, "Well, after your first goal, we just gave the ball straight back to you. There was just no attempt. I know it's a tactic for territory, but at that point in the half, you've got a bit of momentum. And they gave the ball straight back to us. We went up the other end, kicked off that move that ended up with winning the free kick and scoring." I thought it was just so marvelously League Two, especially right at the start of the game when they got it wrong a couple of times. Just the lack of effort to go and get it in the corner. It's literally like watching a rugby game, wasn't it?
Well, the very first kickoff where, they did it, went out for a throw. For some reason, the ref calls it back and they retake it and they put it out for a goal kick, which is arguably worse because
much worse.
At least a throw in the corner, you can like do a bit of pressing. And I think that's the whole idea, right? Sort of turning over possession deep into the opposition's half because you want them to have the ball, you want to press. That's your style, and you could maybe make an argument that. And I think Caspel has spoken about this before, but one of the best ways to beat a Neil Harris team is to let them have the ball because we're not that brilliant with it, although I would argue that we are getting better and better. But yeah, it seems foolish to concede a goal in like 45 minute, 45th minute, 46th minute, whatever, and then be like, right, we'll give the ball back. See out that half, get in,
exactly,
get into the dressing room, regroup, and go again in the second half. But yeah, giving it away was terrible. And then actually talk about giving it away. The second goal itself, great cross, great header. We'll talk about that for sure. But the build-up play by Pelly was terrific, absolutely terrific. To win that ball, to win the ball back off a very experienced defender, turn it over, get a little bit of space, force the foul. That was a great move. So yeah, two opportunities there for Colchester to keep hold of the ball and
I'm pretty sure that was the first goal, Jord. I'm pretty sure that was the free kick. That was who won the free kick for the first goal.
That was the first goal.
But you're absolutely right, and it deserves mentioning because we've got a question in on Pelly. I mean, we may as well just tackle it now. Jack's asked, what's it got to take for questions to come in about Pelly? I understand he's still behind on his fitness, and there is some really poor mistakes in there that nearly cost us. And I thought it was, I mean, obviously everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I thought that's by far and away the best I've seen him play for us. Played 90 minutes. You could see he was lagging at the end, and you could see he was a bit cooked. But my God, he was still trying. You definitely can't.
Well, Neil Harris said in the presser that he didn't want to come off. He was, the desire was there to stay on and finish the job. Likewise, I read that question, and whilst grateful for the question coming in, as always for people sending the questions in, I was a little bit shocked by that because I thought Ruddock had a good game. Not the full 90-minute performance. Like I think he was stronger in patches. First half better. Second half sort of floated in and out of the game. But yeah, clearly a little bit flagging at the end there, a bit sort of blowing, but still chasing things down at relevant points. Thought it was quite an interesting move as well, bringing McLaughlin in and pushing Pelly Ruddock sort of slightly further forward to have sort of almost a sort of like a ball winner, number 10, rather than like a ball carrier or player.
Well, do you know what? Just on that, sorry, quickly on the way there, we were discussing this in the car, and there was a discussion about we've got 4 pretty good centre mids for the level, and when you include Corey Smith in there, who obviously has won promotion with Derby only a couple of years ago, played like 38, 40 games for them that season. He's a player of high quality, even if maybe we didn't see it all the time last year, or at least high pedigree, let's say that. And I made the point. I said, well, I've got a feeling that Harris might fancy Ruddock as kind of a more advanced centre mid in like a 4-4-1-1 type of system, but in a defensive sense. So when you're seeing out a 1-0, a 1-goal lead, for example, or if you're playing someone tricky away from home, let's say we travel to MK, and you can have a midfield 2 of Smith and Ball, and then Ruddock ahead of them. So you've got, exactly like you just said, almost a ball-winning number 10. But Ruddock's such an all-rounder. He's still got that attacking ability that I think, especially at this level, you see it with that first goal, the way he wins that free kick, the sort of tenacity to win that ball back. And if he doesn't get fouled, he's about to get a shot away, and he's created the chance all himself. So, yeah, I think he was definitely worth a mention because there was definitely question marks in my head, I've got to say, and there probably still are a touch, like very faint. But I think you saw on Tuesday the sort of player that we've got there, and give him another couple of weeks, he might be right up to full fitness.
My favourite thing about Tuesday night and Pelly Ruddock's performance was just exactly that. The amount of times that he turned the ball over and won it back. Absolute ball winner without committing what felt like very little fouls or giving away free kicks. That was saved for Don Ball. But yeah, I'm struggling to remember a time where we've had a player who literally just wins back possession as much as I saw on Tuesday night. So it's a really great feature.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we've skirted around Jobe somehow for the last 10 minutes. But let's talk about the man, Mamadou Jobe. Obviously puts us ahead 2 minutes after Brophy's equaliser. We got a lot of questions in on Jobe. Obviously, thank you everyone for sending in your questions as per usual. Luke, Marvin, and Mark all asked a question about Jobe. I'm going to pick Luke's, which is how high is Jobe's ceiling? He probably won't be with us in a couple of years, but can we have him going as high as Harry Darling? And Marvin, just to add to that, also made the point. It's crazy to think that Jobe's he's played less than 15 games for us. I mean, the guy was brilliant Tuesday night, wasn't he? I want to just, obviously his goal was excellent and brilliant contribution. But he's dealing with the number 9 for Colchester, Samson Tavide. A move to Luton fell through at the last minute. He's almost definitely out of there, and they know that. I think that's came through their youth system, and it's all. They agree that his level's much higher. So at the moment, we're probably dealing with one of the best number 9s in the league. Mm-hmm. Very physical player. Jobe dealt with him, especially to get booked early, which I also thought was a bit unfair. That it was a bit an off the ball incident that was a bit of a tit for tat thing that I couldn't believe that Tavide didn't get the same. It sort of felt like yellow apiece. If you're going to give one to Jobe, you're going to give one to Tavide. But anyway, Jobe gets booked early, deals with that for the whole game, deals with the player for the whole game, definitely their biggest threat and one of the best strikers in the league, potentially, and then goes and puts a ball in at the other end of the pitch. I mean, what a performance.
Yeah, brilliant, wasn't it? A brilliant performance from Jobe. Classy, you might say. A wise head, sort of more experienced than the 15 games that Marvin mentions there. Just wasn't bullied at all. Experienced players there, physical players there. Yeah, really encouraging to see. And like you say, dealt with that yellow card so well. I really thought at the time, this is a problem. Centre back on a booking here. Is he going to last a 90? Probably going to need to swap him off. Who the hell's on the bench that can come in play centre back? But to deal with that, it was terrific. Such a wise head on him, and so yeah, really, really encouraging. And then his physicality and his height was so important at both ends. Dealing with crosses. Colchester's biggest threat was getting it out wide and sort of whipping it in, and I think we dealt with that a lot better in the second half. People like Purrington and Bennett, I think, really were tenacious in sort of in their defending on Tuesday as well. So kudos to them. But to have a threat going forward as well, because obviously he scored the goal, beautiful goal, jumped like a salmon and sort of times it well, gets away from his player, good sort of power into the ground. But it wasn't his only header in the opposition box. So it's clearly something that's going to be a weapon for us this season, should he play. One disappointment. Where's the long throws gone, Julian?
Well, I think Harris...
Where's the long throws gone?
Well, I'm sure he's still got them in his locker, but it clearly must be something that Harris doesn't want to utilise, which seems strange, right? It seems like quite a Harris thing to...
Also, on the long throws, going off on a tangent here, but because we're playing Bristol Rovers away tomorrow, when we played Bristol Rovers away a few days ago, James Gibbons has a long throw.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
Gibbons
I hadn't noticed that before.
Am I being harsh? I wouldn't say that Gibbons is like... I wouldn't say it's certified long throw. I think Jobe's is proper long. Jobe's is like proper arrow, guaranteed, get to the other side of the box almost. Gibbons is like at a push, you're sort of, do you know what I mean? You can challenge near post.
What I'm saying with Gibbons is it's better than George Williams.
For sure.
So okay. That's, I think that's an important benchmark because we went with that for pretty much a whole season. So if you're throwing it longer, you're lobbing it further than George Williams, then you're okay with me.
Yeah. I don't want to take anything away from Gibbons. Just back on Jobe, do you think, looking forward, how much of an asset have we got there? The sort of second part to Marvin's question, which I may as well just ask, is if he can fulfil his potential with us, could he break our record transfer fee received for Dion Dublin? I mean, I don't necessarily want you to speculate on that, but the guy's got 2 years left on his deal, I think. Mm-hmm. If I were Mark Bonner on Wednesday morning, I'd have gone to his agent and gone, there's a 10-year deal. What do you want?
Yeah. Let's talk about that extension.
Yeah.
Let's not speculate where the Dion Dublin money went or if we could get more for Jobe. But how high is his ceiling? It feels pretty high, right? I'm trying to remember how I felt about Harry Darling in the promotion year when he obviously got sold off to Swansea, I believe.
Well, mate, sorry to interrupt. Can we just bring up the brilliant little tidbit that Matt Ramsey found? Listen to
Always.
this. Matt Ramsey, friend of the pod, absolute ledge. The last time Cambridge United produced a starlet centre back from their academy, Harry
Hmm.
Darling's first senior goal is a winner at Colchester.
I
Six
remember.
years and 2 days later, the next star defender off the production line, Mamadou Jobe, scores his first used goal, a winner at Colchester.
Spookier.
That's good stuff.
I mean, if he scores an overhead kick, then it'd be even better. But I can't keep nitpicking. It's a terrific stat.
I do think there were some question marks around Darling. From my memory, there was an excitement, and we knew we had a player there. But maybe it's just because he played in a worse team at the time.
Yeah.
A lower end League Two team when he was kind of coming through. Obviously, then he was a big part in the first half of the promotion season. But before that, I feel like there was a few question marks around Harry Darling and how high his ceiling actually was. Or am I remembering it wrong?
No, you're remembering it spot on. In fact, if you head to the message board, there is still like a rumbling joke around how one person believed that Harry Darling's ceiling was like conference or conference north, and here he is, captaining a team in the championship. It's how many seasons he's done in the championship now? It's quite a few in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he scored for Norwich the other day as well. So yeah, doing really well. Perhaps it's a little bit too early to talk about if Jobe could do the same, because I think Harry Darling had played a lot of football over a lot of seasons for us. So maybe there was more to scout, more to take interest. I'd be shocked if people don't inquire about Jobe this January and next summer. But yeah, it definitely feels like there's everything there around him, which suggests that he could be, a big money sale for us.
Yeah, yeah. Whack a huge sell-on percentage on that deal as well whenever that gets done. Second half, saw it out. I think at the time it was one of those classic ones where when you stood in the away end, you're kind of head in hands, nervous, but really think back to how many chances they created when you're trying to look at it in the cold light of day. And I think it was actually much more comfortable than it felt on the night.
Well, you say that about like it being a half where you had like your head in your hands. It's only really that last 10 minutes, as you would probably expect, with Colchester sort of throwing everything at it to chase it. Because I actually think second half started really well. We were clearly, something about us clearly had the momentum. We were winning the ball back a lot. We were making a lot of chances. We're dominating possession. And really, the big criticism for the first, I don't know, 2/3 of the second half is the fact that we've not killed the game off again. We've not found that third goal. There was, threats from set pieces. There were threats from Kai cutting in from the left, like 2 opportunities. I think he's gone down, sort of appealing for a penalty for both.
He didn't actually appeal, I don't think. I think he just lost his footing both times. It almost looked like his kind of legs gave way on him a little bit, like he sort of lost his balance in a weird way with both of them. But anyway, that's beside the point.
The second one, he's definitely thrown his arms up to appeal. But that's semantics. But yeah, really, we've bullied them. We've done them with intensity. We've won the second balls. We bullied them with set pieces as we did in the first half. We killed the game without actually killing it with that third goal, and that was then why you go into that last phase of the second half where you do start to get nervous. That Cambridge Unitedness of being a Cambridge United fan kicks in, and you're like, I can see us giving this away. So yeah, the head in hands moments, as you were saying, did creep in, but probably for me not until like the last 10-20 minutes or so. And even then we stood up and played pretty well. I mentioned earlier East with a couple of smart stops, so some good blocks, good defending from set pieces. So I do think it was a little bit easier than perhaps we give it credit for. But having said that, there were still openings, weren't there? There was that one, I don't think it made the highlights, but sort of seemed to trickle across the 6-yard box and no one got a foot on it. So yeah, some heart in mouth moments, but that's just part of the fun of a win away on a midweek under the lights in front of a big crowd, right? You can't have it plain sailing as much as we would have loved that third goal.
Yeah, exactly. The one the kind of the chance they had, which I think was probably the most heart and mouth moment, was that like flick round the corner. The one that you just mentioned, the one he's trying to like flick it in. I think from my angle, I think it was going wide anyway, but Eastwood did obviously well to get down to it and make sure. I think if you watch it back, there's a player just behind the lad who sort of flicks it round towards goal, who if he'd have left it, it's a goal. The guy's like
Yeah.
6 yards out. But sometimes you get these bits of luck.
Oh, what a shame.
Can I just mention again the Colchester fans' view of the game that's in the newsletter, which obviously you get them every week if you sign up to the newsletter. But I think this is worth just the other perspective a little bit on this, because he had so much praise for us. Like, Cambridge pressed brilliantly, dominated the game, made our long ball tactic look toothless. Don Ball ran the show in midfield. Lucky not to get a second booking. We should mention that.
True.
Yeah, very true. While Purrington and Bennett shut down our wingers completely. He said Cambridge had threats all over. Tactically, we got it wrong, but Cambridge were positive, aggressive, and on the front for promotion contenders in my book. I think it's just interesting to see another team. We're so often so critical of ourselves, I think, as a team. And in that mailbag show, as you referred to earlier, I haven't quite revised my preseason prediction yet, but it sounds like you have a little bit, and I'd be intrigued to see what have you seen enough, especially on Tuesday, that there's enough about us to bridge that gap from 11th to 7th, let's say, even just to get into the playoffs?
Well, it's also worth mentioning that post-game, Danny Cowley was talking about how good this side was, how good the Cambridge side was, and felt that we were probably a team that would challenge for automatic promotion. He's got badges, he knows the game better than I, so how can I dispute that? I think we touched on this last time we did a preview pod, you and I, and I think I predicted us to finish 11th, so top of the sort of bottom half or the bottom of the top half, however you want to look at it. How am I feeling in terms of revising that? I would say I haven't seen anything to make me feel that it's going to go the other way. I do think there's enough there to challenge for that top 10. Is there enough to maybe sort of tip my dial from, say, 11th to maybe top 7 playoff challenge? It's hard to say. I think I would like a few more games. I think the inconsistency so far from us in terms of the soft goals conceded and the lack of ruthlessness in front of goal is a worry for me. I wonder how long we can continue to sort of ride that before it becomes an issue. Still worried about the depth. I know the transfer window's still open. Neil Harris said in the presser yesterday no progress on transfers, and said it could even be another 7 days before we start seeing things, and it will happen late in the window. So again, need to see what sort of quality comes in, because it does look like we've got some really good players for the level. Apare had a fantastic night on Tuesday night. Kai in the first half was decent and felt like he was on one. But a couple of key players, if you lose them, I'm not sure where the dynamic will swing for the team and whether we would still be good enough to compete. Don't think the league has been that impressive so far. I know we've
far
not
from it, George. That's probably the biggest thing for me. I just think what we're coming up against, I just think the quality is so much lower than League One. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but even the decent teams at this level, or the teams that are fancied to be decent, like Colchester, you're just not that impressed by them, surely.
Yeah, there's very few teams that have sort of hit the ground running to start the season. Obviously Crewe, the big exception, played 4-1 for Grimsby, who a few people fancied. I think you might have mentioned Grimsby as an outside bet. To me, have started well, but you look at the other teams, the teams with sort of bigger budgets and expected to be up in and around there. We're sort of level pegging with them, a point behind Milton Keynes, a point ahead of Walsall, for example. I don't want to dwell too much on the teams that came down with us and make an argument that, we're going to do well because of how poorly the other relegated teams are doing. But Harris mentioned it very briefly in his presser, but yeah, they're all struggling at the wrong end. Bristol and Shrewsbury and Crawley only got the 1 point so far. So yeah, definitely a good response to sort of landing in the league. So yeah, okay, I'll be positive and say I've seen enough to nudge us from maybe 11th to 10th.
Wow.
There you go.
You're such a bold bloke. I love that.
Bullishness there.
I think that's a perfect moment to move on to Bristol Rovers. Let's get a preview first. Jack spoke to Charlie.
Right then, news fans, I'm joined by Charlie Hayne from the Talking Gas Pod, friend of the podcast. Charlie, you've been on a few times. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's good to be back on. Yeah, I'm very happy to be back on and talk about it again.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've already faced each other once this season. Cambridge winning 2-0 in the League Cup there. It's been a difficult start to the season, hasn't it, for you guys? How's it been so far?
Yeah, very, very difficult. Yeah, I think difficult is pretty much an understatement, really. Yeah, 5 games now in all comps. Obviously, played you in the cup. That was definitely our worst performance of the season. Yeah, struggling so far. Obviously, got our first point on the board last night, but yeah, sort of the hangover from last season. Really, even though it's still a new season. It's gone on from last season. Really, I think it's what 14 or 15 games now without a win. We haven't won since the 11th of March when we beat Bolton and then beat Harrogate before. Not Harrogate, Huddersfield before that. So yeah, been a really tough start. Quite a lot of frustrating, a lot of anger. But yeah, hopefully we can kick on now after getting our first point of the season last night.
Yeah, so you spoke about last season being tough, and Cambridge fans can sympathise with that. How was your summer in kind of terms of signings and pre-season? How did that go?
Yeah, it's been quite a busy one to be honest. Obviously, we got Darryl Clark back. Calderon was sacked after losing to Blackpool on the final day. Obviously, Darryl Clark was announced. We had a new director of football in Ricky Martin, who we got from Stoke. A lot of new players. I think was it 10 or 11 now. So yeah, got a lot of new players and still got quite a few from last season. But yeah, you got the likes of Ellis Harrison back, Jack Sparks, Luke Southwood in goal, Casper Lapata, a centre back from Barnsley, who we recently signed, who played well last night. Ryan Howley. Yeah, there has been a lot of transfers, a lot of players left. I think 17 players left overall. And yeah, I think there's 10 or 11 so far. So a lot of business. Yeah, pre-season was okay. We didn't really play. We did get a couple of wins, but they were against sort of non-league teams, Yeovil, Bath City, etc. We actually played well on our last pre-season game against Oxford. We beat them away from home. But yeah, overall wasn't really the best. There were some good signs, but yeah, it's pre-season is pre-season. You can't really judge too much on it, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've referenced it already, but Tuesday night saw your first point of the season, a home draw, 0-0 with Oldham, a clean sheet as well. How was that game?
Yeah, well, very frustrating to draw the game and not win because I thought we deserved to win. We pretty much dominated on every single stat. We had the most shots on target in a very long time we've had, which we got 5, 14 shots, plenty of chances created. Defensively, we looked solid. Obviously, in the end, it's frustrating because we didn't win a game. It's another game without a win, but so much better than what we've seen. Obviously, to get a clean sheet as well, to get a point. Even though Oldham, you want to be beating a side that's just come up because they didn't really offer much either. I mean, they've only lost 1 game so far, so it's not like they've been, losing every game, but frustrating in the end because we deserve to win. But we'll take the point and hopefully build on it against you guys and get some, revenge from that cup game.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. So looking ahead to the game then, what style of football can we expect from Rovers this season?
To be honest with you, that's a really good question because we haven't really seen a style of football. To be honest with you, there's been, we've mainly played with 3 at the back with wing backs, but there's been a lot of long ball. Our wing backs haven't really been getting high, passing wise. Last night we did start passing it along the floor a bit more because we have got some really good technical players like McEachran who can get the ball down and play. But yeah, to be honest with you, there isn't really a style of play. Like it's just a lot of long ball so far. Obviously, last night was a lot better. Last night we actually went back to the back 4, which a lot of gas heads have been crying out to do because in a back 3 we just don't look the same when we've played it many times before under different managers and it hasn't worked. So yeah, hopefully again a back 4, hopefully a little bit more passing, but really there hasn't really been a style of play. So I can't really tell any youth fans that are listening to this that we have one, to be honest, at the moment.
No, fair enough. Going to be interesting to see how both sides set up. So if talking about personnel then, which players should Cambridge United fans look out for then?
I'd probably say McEachran is definitely one in midfield. He didn't play in the game against you guys in the cup. He had a rest. I think Promise Omacheri, who is in his career so far at Rovers has struggled quite a bit, but he did do really well against you guys in the home game we had last season, scoring both goals. And we actually played him in his natural position because when we signed him from Fleetwood, he was playing as a winger, but we spent 500k on him to play him as a striker, but we played him in his natural position last night and he was really good. I would also say, I'd probably say Fabrizio Cavane as well, who's a Swiss under 21 international. We've recently spent money on him. I'm not sure the amount, but we've got him from a side in Switzerland. So he worked really hard last night, didn't really get any opportunities, but I would say him as well because he's very quick.
Yeah, interesting and good to get that insight. So looking at your season as a whole, then obviously it's been a slow start, but we know that it's a long old season and things can happen. What's the aim for Bristol Rovers this season? Where would you be happy finishing this season?
Well, the aim is promotion. The aim is definitely promotion. I think most Rovers fans would probably agree. Some Rovers fans think we need sort of a whole reset because of mentality, players here from last season, etc. And I know we've started poorly, but we have started poorly in the last 2 seasons. We've got promoted from this league as well, with Darryl Clark and then with Joey Barton as well. So yeah, I would say promotion. There's not really any doubt. We've got a good squad. Obviously, we're quite a decently sized club for the league, but even though that doesn't really matter, it all matters about what's going on the pitch and off the pitch. It's been a bit of a mess really on and off it, especially over the last year or so, but it goes back even further than that. But definitely promotion is the aim, like for me especially, and for most Rovers fans anyway.
Yeah, interesting to hear. I think most Cambridge United fans will be somewhere near the same page, but yeah, tough old season, a bit of a rebuild. Just before we go then, Charlie, looking ahead to the game, what's your prediction for the game? How do you think it's going to pan out and what do you think the score will be?
Well, hopefully we can build on the game from last night, build on the performance. We usually do have a good record against you because before the cup game, I think we'd won 8 out of the last 9 against you. Obviously done you over twice last season, keeping clean sheets. Obviously, yeah, the cup game was absolutely appalling from us. You comfortably won that game, but I think we'll just nick it. I think that first win is going to arrive, and I'll go 1-0. I think it'd be quite a tight game. I know obviously you guys are on brilliant form, and I'm very, very worried at the fact of playing you again because you come from behind last night to win again. I don't think you've lost in any competition this season. You've made some good signings. I like the manager, but I think we'll just edge it 1-0, and I think DC will get his first win, and we get our first 3 points of the season, hopefully.
Well, yeah, certainly interesting to see, and yeah, we love playing Rovers. So even though we're down a league, it's nice to play you again. And listen,
Yeah.
Charlie, thanks for joining us again, mate.
No worries. Appreciate you having me on. Really enjoyed it again.
Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks, Charlie. Presser, let's start there, Jord. Not much. He didn't give much away. He did confirm Morrow won't be back in training for a couple of weeks, still struggling to breathe or talk. I mean, that sounds like such a brutal one, doesn't it? He kind of mentioned that when he was coming off, he had like blood dripping out of his mouth and stuff. And I think maybe underestimated that a little bit in the immediate aftermath of I can see the effect that has when your captain goes off in that sort of state, not just injured, but something that is kind of internal in that sense. Harris said it's a miracle the bloke walked off the pitch.
Yeah, it sounds brutal, doesn't it?
It sounds horrible, doesn't it?
At the time, I sort of remember thinking, can you bruise a lung? To bruise
Yeah,
a lung,
right. Yeah, what does that mean?
To bruise a lung, you've surely got to crack a rib or something. So it sounds pretty awful. But yeah, it sounds like we won't have an update for at least 2 weeks when he goes for his next scan. He was in the training ground this week, which apparently gave the players a lift, which is lovely to hear. And he's going to do, soft rehab stuff like be on the bike and just see how long like he can sort of do that for. Because like you say, if he's struggling to breathe and it's difficult, he's kind of got to sort of get over that before he can then start thinking about sort of playing football again. So yeah, suspect it'll be a few weeks yet before he's in the contention for the squad.
I do think it would be crazy if we didn't go get another centre half now. This situation, even just someone on loan, someone to bolster the squad. Because firstly, Ibsen Rossi on the bench the other night came on right at the end of injury time on Tuesday. No Bradshaw the last 2 weeks, and I could have sworn I saw him in like one of those the little amber angle compilation that I watched Thursday morning or Wednesday morning.
Well, we're about to talk about. Well, we are talking about Bristol Rovers away, which is obviously
Yeah.
when he made his first start and
Well,
had
exactly.
a terrific game that night. So it is a shock to see him not in the squad, especially because he's got that versatility of being able to play centre back and left back and wing back if needed.
And it's not been mentioned in a presser. Like, it just seems like it's just sort of gone a bit under the radar a little bit. Like, why is he not making a bench head of Ibsen Rossi? Maybe he's just ill or something, and it's just he'll be back on Saturday. Who knows?
Who knows?
We're speculating.
It's I don't know if it's a left foot thing, and there are other left foot options, but I don't know.
I'm not sure.
It seems peculiar because you've got Gibbons who's right footed, so
Yeah.
he could play centre back on the right as well as right back. But yeah, I'd like to see some more Bradshaw. Like we said after the Bristol Rovers game, I thought he had a lot about him. Neil Harris has spoken previously saying that he sees Bradshaw as a project still, and it could be 6 to 18 months before we see the best of him. But at the same time, feels like he can trust him to put him in to a starting lineup or into a squad and him not let anyone down. So yeah, disappointing to see him not at least make the bench.
It's funny when you consider like he did play like quite a lot of games for Tranmere last year at this level. He's not like fresh to the EFL football. I don't have the numbers up in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he was like first choice there last season, so he's not totally fresh. There was one bizarre moment in the presser, or at least normally you get asked about injuries every week, and he'll just say, Lavery's injured, or he normally says that, and whatever it is, a bit of an update. Kai we need to see. He might not be fully honest or whatever, but this time gets asked about injuries, and he laughs quite a lot, and then says, possibly watch this space, wait for the team sheet on Saturday. What are you reading into that? Very cryptic from Mr. Harris.
I have absolutely no idea. The thing is, before I saw the presser, you text us about it and you quoted it, and reading the quote had me very worried. And then when I watched the presser, like you say, bit jovial, a little bit of a smile, I have no idea to read his demeanor. I'm not sure where he's going with that. Is it, oh my God, things are really bad, I've got to
exactly
trying to laugh about it, or it's a coy, I'm not, I'm gonna laugh about it because things are fine and there's probably only the known ones of Morrow and Lavery that won't be involved at the weekend.
It could also just be as simple as like he just doesn't want to say, like, in case, I don't know, giving Rovers some sort of advantage. I don't know if that's really in his mind at all. But
I do think as well, there's a couple of names in the squad, your Appareys, your Kaikais, for example, that are playing a lot of football, and I wonder if that runs a risk. Obviously Apparay had an injury last year. Kaikai's had hit and miss injury record, throughout his career, but especially with us. There is a part of me that's a little bit apprehensive of some players playing a lot of football. Other players have been able to, rotate and rest. So, Don Ball, McLovin, Pelly, Ruddock. Some players in key areas have been able to rest and rotate. Bennett, Gibbons, for example, whereas others haven't. So I'm a little bit worried about that. So I'm wondering if, putting that and Neil Harris's comments together, like, is the news on Saturday a bad one? Like, is it one of those two names that I've said, which are real key players for us?
But the thing is, the one thing I read about into it, and obviously we are trying to read a lot into it, is whether it's good or bad, it's a surprise, whatever the thing is. And I just don't think Kai merits a surprise, because he went off injured against Harrogate. He was touch and go for Tuesday. He played 90 minutes Tuesday. In fact, if he'd said, we need to, rest Sully, that would be maybe the least surprising thing he could have said of all the players.
Yeah,
Apparay maybe a touch. Yeah, I see a point on Apparay, but again, it just doesn't feel like big enough, because we have got this new lad, Kouassi and Loft. So not that that's great. I'm just saying that, like, what I read into it is either one end of the scale, Lavery's going to start or something, or Lavery's going to be in the side, he just doesn't want to give it away, or the other end of the scale, and like Eastwood's injured or something like that.
I love that you've jumped to the positive there of Lavery being back. What did they say? Sort of 4 to 6 weeks? Has it been 4
Something
to
like
6
yeah,
weeks?
but that's what I mean about the reaction. It's like that would be the surprise, the sort of level of surprise, you know, or something totally unexpected, like Jobe's out or something, and it's a terrible thing like that. Anyway,
I would hope that something serious, the names we've listed there, Jobe, Apre, Kaikai, I would hope they wouldn't be sort of
yeah,
commented on with a wry smile and a bit of
I
sort
agree.
of gallows humor to it. So
Yeah.
hopefully it means everything's fine.
Yeah,
Everything is fine, Julian. It's
Everything's
gonna be fine.
Joyce. I'm excited for that team sheet now. Imagine if it's just a red herring. Absolutely fine. No problems. One thing that he was asked about transfers and he said no, nothing happening. I find it great. Surely we're not going to go into the season without another winger in this side because we don't really have one. I mean, unless you can count Knight as a winger, obviously, but he's a different type of player, isn't he? Kai and Brophy. I mean, in my mind, it should be top of the agenda. That and a centre half. I think we should be all guns blazing to try and bulk the squad out with those two.
Absolutely. I think we need some reinforcements in wide positions. Brophy's got incredible fitness, but has sort of not had the best start to the season, I would say. And I know he obviously scored on Tuesday night, but it's sort of
and against Swindon.
And Swindon, of course, sort of in and out, sort of form wise. And Kaikai's been terrific, and will be a real loss if we were to have an injury or suspension there. So yeah, it does feel like we're lacking depth in that sort of three that can play behind a striker. We've also not mentioned the fact that we've got Kylian Kouassi, sort of a new signing. I can't remember if that was mentioned in the previous pod, but
no, it wasn't.
There was a little bit of sort of uncertainty about what kind of player he is. What could he play out wide? Is he a target man? Lots of questions around like his height and his build. Like, what role does he fit in? I think it's clear from Tuesday the role is, through the middle, target man. Wins headers. Even though he's not, perhaps as tall as some of the other strikers that we've been mentioned. Interesting one that signing though, isn't it? Because it was a real sort of pivot away from, say, a real experienced name like your Ironsides or your Smiths. So yeah, really interesting to see that one come through. Sort of like a younger sort of mold for that role.
But I just find it odd, and I know this is it's a very sort of basic thing to say. I do just find the profile we've gone after there to be like quite confusing, not necessarily of Kouassi, and I'm not barely seen the guy play. Not that I thought he was particularly impressive when he came off the bench the other night, but let him get up to speed a little bit before we reserve a bit of judgment. But just like to go after Smith, this 6'5" target man that Harris clearly wants to play like that. We're still lumping up to Apare a lot of the time, which isn't his game. And then to go after someone, I mean, this guy might be brilliant in the air. Joe Ironside's a good example of a kind of smaller target man who's very good at hold-up play and wins his fair share of headers. Mm-hmm. So maybe he's in that mould. I just honestly thought that Harris would want someone of a 6'3", 4'5", big lad up top. Your Harry Smith sort of mould. Yeah, a bit of a lump. I just thought that that's what he wanted in his physical attributes. So, interesting one.
Has the Harry Smith ACL been confirmed, or is it still wicked
definitely
rumour?
Bad? It's definitely bad. Whatever the Swindon, there's been a bit of a Swindon Town meltdown this week, which is
love to see.
Love to see
that. Well, talking of meltdowns, I couldn't help but think when I sort of read that Smith had done his ACL or potentially done his ACL. Like, imagine doing one of these pods. You've just signed a striker in sort of early 30s for probably more money than we should, and he pops an ACL. Imagine potential meltdowns from potential panelists on this pod if that was the case, Julian.
It's incredibly Cambridge United, isn't it? We kind of cursed him there, I think, a little bit. One other thing we got to mention from the presser, just obviously we don't know a lot about this rule, but we definitely have to mention it. He was asked about Ben Hughes not being on the bench, and
no, Ben Hughes was. Oh yeah. Hughes was off.
Ben Hughes wasn't on the bench. JJ Briggs was on the bench. Was it a case of like Hughes going out on loan or something? And Harris mentioned that there's this EFL rule, which I hadn't heard of, that every squad's got to have one club developed player in, or you can only have 6 subs on the bench, right? I think that's how we're reading it when we've done our very quick bit of research just before this pod. Which fair enough, that makes sense. But does Mamadou Jobe not count as a club developed player, is my confusion. I mean, someone from the club will be listening to this and there will be an answer to this. I would assume maybe Jobe signed a bit too late, maybe in the academy system, but I thought he'd been with us for a long time. Did you know anything about this?
I knew absolutely nothing about this.
No,
and,
never
and
heard of this.
and what's great is like I have tried to find an answer. I've looked around, X, the message board, etc., Substack chats. I haven't seen an answer yet. So if someone has got an answer, please do send it our way. But yeah, same as you. I thought Jobe would have counted in that category of being a club developed player. Harris said in the squad as well. So even if, not necessarily on the bench, but if you're starting someone, so yeah, very very confused about that one. What was interesting though was the explanation behind JJ Briggs getting the place over Hoddle and McConnell, and Harris was talking about how they've become part of this sort of little mini under 21 league with a couple of other league teams and some non-league teams. So they'll be playing sort of more games. And so they played earlier in the day on Tuesday. I think that's really encouraging because I don't know the full ins and outs of the past few seasons, how many behind closed doors games, etc., were being played. But it felt like those on the peripheral of the squad were sort of struggling to get minutes and make an impression when they came on. I know this is obviously youth level, but we've spoken before about youngsters breaking into the squad and how it's been a pretty poor record compared to other teams, and we don't seem to develop players and sell them on for big money and so forth. Feels like now with this sort of mini league in operation might aid some of those your Hoddles, your McConnells making the step up into the matchday squad.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that I think Bonner mentioned in the interview we did as well, that like getting those guys under 21's minutes is an important thing for their development. Let's wrap up talking about Bristol Rovers here. They're still winless, as you touched on a second ago. But again, Benji's data piece highlights that their underlying data is actually much better than you think. Their like accumulated XG so far is pretty high, and they've picked up a lot less actual points than they should have done. Kind of a bit like us this
Sounds
time
familiar.
last year. Yeah. So it might be that they're just waiting for something to click. Again, I remember doing pods and pods and pods, waiting for something to click. So it's not guaranteed it's going to happen at all. They have got a good squad. You can't doubt their squad, I think, when you look at it on paper. But we saw them play the other night, a couple of weeks ago, and they were far from impressive that night. Harris made a really good point about, a part of me was thinking, it's probably a benefit that we've seen them play a couple of weeks ago. But he just said, well, they've seen us play. It's exactly the same the other way around. And if anything, they sort of know what mistakes they need to put right directly against us. So maybe that's why he's keeping some cards close to his chest in terms of the injury situation. So there's an maybe unexpected situation to the lineup that Darryl Clark might not have thought of. But what would you do to the lineup, and give me a little prediction for the game itself?
Well, yeah, just on seeing Bristol Rovers so recently, it's worth sort of pointing out that midweek away to Oldham, they changed to a back four, which was different to when we played there, I believe. And I think they've played about 6 different formations over the course of the season so far. So it is probably too hard to know what to expect on the Saturday. As for us and as for formation and personnel, I can't see us moving away from that 4-2-3-1. I don't think there'll be many changes, like cliche as it is, no, don't mess around or don't change a winning team. Maybe swap out Ruddock for McLovin, bit more sort of security in the middle there. I'm looking at Kachunga maybe swapping out for someone as well, either Pelly Ruddock going in that advanced role like we discussed, or maybe Ben Knight coming back in. But even then, I'm not too sure. So I don't think there'll be too many changes on Saturday unless they're forced by this mystery potential injury situation. So I think I'm keeping it pretty similar to what we played on Tuesday night, if everyone's fit, with maybe the exception of a little bit more attacking coming into the squad, with Ben Knight maybe picking up the number 10 role again, and maybe Pelly Ruddock dropping out for McLovin.
I would
Yourself?
definitely do that catch change. I've been for all the positivity. I think Kachunga's performances the last few weeks, well, Harrogate and Tuesday night, I think he's just been genuinely like such a cut below everyone else in that squad in terms of his like endeavour, his desire, his quality on the ball, his pace. There's nothing. Honestly, I think there's nothing about him at the moment, and that's absolutely one change I would make. Whether it's Ruddock playing more advanced or Ben Knight, one of the two. That is one change I'd 100% make for Saturday. Apart from that, I would probably keep it the same. I'd like to see Bradshaw on the bench because I think he could be an option coming on if we're defending a lead because he's got a lot of aerial ability about him. But yeah, that would be the only thing I would do. Prediction?
It's a tough one, this one, because there was a part of me that's sort of thinking earlier, like, surely it can't be as easy as last time. It can't be as straightforward as last time. Bristol Rovers are going to be sort of so fired up to get their first win. They're at home. Then you mentioned the whole data piece, and that sort of stoked that fire up. So there is a part of me that could see us losing. I'll try and keep it optimistic, though, and go with 1-1. Let's go with a draw.
George, we're normally pretty aligned, and my heart was telling me 1-1 as well, being a bit sort of tempering my expectations as such. I actually just have this weird thing. That I actually just think that they're due a win, and I just think we're going to play them at the wrong moment, and they'll have seen us a few weeks ago and put some mistakes right. And like you say, really want to correct this sort of poor start to the season they've had, and I think it might just be a bad moment. I think they might win like 2-1 maybe. But I don't think it'll be anything that's too... I don't think we'll come out of it feeling particularly disheartened. I think it might just be one of those things the footballing gods sort of bring down to us. And you've got 2 home games after that, Newport and Oldham. That's a big chance to pick up 6 points and make a mark on this league, whatever we do Saturday. So I'd be pretty happy with getting something Saturday. I still think it's a tough place to go, given the quality of player they've got. And Clark's been a good manager for a long time, so I'm sure he'll get them playing at some point. And just worry it might start Saturday. Let's wrap it up, George. That's a bumper preview show. Bit of a treat for everyone on this late Friday morning.
It's a bit of a review as well. Lots of good stuff to talk about from Tuesday night, and just one of those nights where, the next day and the day after, you're still a little bit buzzing from it,
Yeah, definitely.
Enjoyed chatting to every sort of United fan in sort of WhatsApp chats about Tuesday. So yeah, good to get it all discussed, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope. Back it up on Saturday. I think it's me and Tom on Sunday morning, and then we're all going to see the Maccabees, aren't we, George? Little bit of a throwback Sunday afternoon.
Very, very excited. A lot of noughties nostalgia to be had on Sunday.
Yeah, and I really look forward to trying to figure out the best sort of pun from a Maccabees song with a U's player or some sort of United situation. So do send them in ahead of Sunday, so I don't have to think about it myself when I upload the pod. That would be ideal.
Challenge accepted, mate.
It's been a pleasure, George. Thanks very much, mate.
Right, I'm going to go get dressed and go to work.